Well, howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, making another video out of Boise, Idaho on the 94-95 Lexus LS400 timing and water pump job. I've already posted part 1 and part 2, which is basically the breakdown, and so this is going to be part 3 and the first part of the putting it all back together videos. Just one thing I want to mention real quick. I've gotten a few emails from people claiming that this job books out to 15 to 20 hours. Yes, it does book out to 15 to 20 hours. I even called around to some buddies in town who told me their techs could knock it out in 15 to 20 hours. The catch about that is those shops charge $100 an hour just for labor. So do the math on that. 15 to 20 hours. I think and feel that I could easily knock this job out in 15 to 20 hours. But to knock a job out like that in the course of 2 days costs a lot of money. You know, maybe you can do it yourself in your own driveway, but when you're doing this for a living, trying to feed your family and stuff, 15 to 20 hours is a long time to spend away from your family, and you definitely need to be compensated for that. However, I don't charge $100 an hour for this type of job, but it still gets done with the same type of service and profession that you would get as if you were paying $100 an hour. In the end, my goal is to give these people back a beautiful, highly dependable running luxury vehicle, which is, if you ask me, what they're paying for. So if you're doing this at home, don't get into the rat race of trying to knock it out in the 15 and 20 book hours that it says to knock it out. Take your time, make sure you do everything right, and accordingly factor in that you're probably going to have some distractions around and whatnot. So there's certain parts of this job that you just want to go ahead and make sure you have a full day or two set aside just to focus on certain aspects and stuff. So where am I at this point? Like I said, I'm ready to rebuild, and one of the most tedious, kind of nerve-wracking things to do is clean off the engine block and get all the gunk off of the engine block so you can go ahead and get the new water pump reinstalled here. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, there is no gasket for this. The factory procedure doesn't call for a gasket. The factory procedure calls for high temperature RTV. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. But like I said, before you do, you want to go over the surface and make sure you get all of the chunks off of there. Make sure you get it cleaned up. Now, some of you won't have an issue getting every single coloring off of there, because that's exactly what that is. At this point, aluminum is a porous metal, and so some of that is just infused into the block there. So some of you will have an easy time getting some of this off. Some of you will not have as much as an easy time getting some of this off. Now, you see that spot right there that I'm just kind of scraping off? Okay. So just once you're done scraping this off and cleaning this off, just run your fingernail across it, and anything that might be raised will come off. Alright, but there does come a certain point to where you've got to understand that you're possibly not going to get every single stain, every single mark off. Aluminum is a porous metal, so there you go. Basically, once you run your finger over everything and everything is smooth, and you kind of run your fingernail over it, or if you take your razor blade and run that over it, once everything is nice and smooth, then you're in good shape to go ahead and lay your water pump. And so, again, you want a high temperature RTV. I use black because it just looks more professional. So I'm just using simple brake cleaner, which is also parts cleaner, to help clean off that area. Another thing that I'm using is 91% alcohol, and I had it somewhere over here, right here. So my final go over for both surfaces in preparation for laying down my RTV bead is to wipe everything down in 91% alcohol and to get all that basically 100% sterile. Now, once we lay this RTV bead, you need to get this water pump installed within 5 minutes of laying that bead. And I'm going to try to show you how we're going to do this and whatnot. Now, the way I lay my RTV bead, my silicone bead down, is I dab it. And so what I'll do is I'll start like somewhere like here, and I'll dab, 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 and then I'll take my finger and I'll run it across there. I got some on there. Oops. I'll take my finger and I'll run it across, and I'll just even and smooth everything out. And then I'll get my water pump laid in. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to set the camera up so you can watch me lay this water pump in. The water pump, you're going to want to get the bolts in, and the water pump bolts are going to torque down to 13 inch-pounds. That's not a lot of torque, and so honestly, if you've done this job enough times yourself, you can go ahead. I mean, 13 inch-pounds is basically a little over hand tighten in my world, if you ask me. That's hardly any torque at all. So give it a good torque down, hand tighten it, torque it down, and then turn the bolt another quarter turn, maybe even as much as a half turn, and you should be good. So I'll kind of show you that torque pattern. Also, make sure you replace your water pump tube O-ring right here. Okay, and then before you get your water pump back on, get you some assembly lube or petroleum jelly, anything like that, and go ahead and lube up this pipe. So that way your water pump will slide back on there pretty easy. So I think that's about it for preparation. You know, scrape down, make sure the surface is smooth, clean off with brake and parts cleaner, clean off with alcohol. Make sure you replace your O-ring, and make sure you lube it up with assembly lube, and then get ready to lay down your RTV bead, which is what I'm going to go do right now. Okay, and you see my RTV bead that I laid down. Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to smooth this out. And at this point, you literally have about 5 minutes to get this installed if you want to get the proper seal and not have to go back in here. Remember, we want this to last for years and years to come. So I'm going to set you in here, and we're going to get this installed. Alright, so hopefully you got a good view. And as you can see, I've got this evenly spread out. Okay, so let's go ahead. And don't expect the bolts to be super easy to turn. That is going to be due to the RTV that you're punching through. That silicone that you laid down. Go ahead and tighten everything by hand. Alright, sorry about that. I just realized that I knocked the camera there. So we're looking at 5 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts, a nut, and 2 studs. And now that we've got that on, you've got it on with equal pressure. You've applied equal pressure. Let's go ahead and get this torqued down. And again, the torque spec on this is 13 inch-pounds. That's pretty much nothing. Okay, you're torquing this down. This is aluminum. So it doesn't necessarily need a whole lot to torque it down. And start from the middle and just work your way out. And there we go. Alright, there you go, folks. There's the installation of the water pump. Woohoo! Now the next thing we're going to do is get our new pulleys installed down here and go from there. Okay, so now at this point, if you feel confident about the installation of your water pump, you feel like you're good and it's not going to leak or anything, go ahead and get your tensioner pulley, your idler, your timing idler pulley, and your hydraulic tensioner installed. Do not pull the pin. Once you get these pulleys reinstalled, go ahead and leave this one just a little loose, so that way when you get your timing belt installed and you pull the pin, it'll do what it needs to do. And then tighten here. This one, go ahead and tighten up. Before you install your timing belt, look at your timing marks. Alright, you should have that notch lined up with that marking. You should have this notch lined up with that marking, and this notch, same thing. You should have all that lined up to perfection before you go ahead and install your timing belt. Then go ahead and get your timing belt installed by starting down here first and then putting it over your idler and your tensioner and your water pump, and then going over your left and right camshafts. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Trick of the trade is you can take a 36mm socket and you can put it over your crankshaft there, and you can use that to grip it and grab it and fine-tune your timing on the bottom half. On the top half, you're going to use a ratchet and a 17mm socket to fine tune that. Alright, well I'm going to get this timing belt installed and show you what that looks like. Alright, now that we got everything reinstalled, which we've got all our tension on this side, okay, and we're loose on this side, that's because this is the side that our tensioner is on. So at this point, go ahead and just double check everything. Double check all your work, and then last but not least, we're going to go ahead and pull this tensioner. Alright, so I'm happy myself where everything is sitting. This may look a little off, okay, but this is loose. This belt is loose all the way across here. There's a reason why it's set up where here it has a lip, but here you can slide it off and on, okay? And so all of your slack is on this side. Alright, so when we pull this tensioner, it's going to put tension here, and it's going to pull the slack out of the belt here, which is going to fine adjust this side. Alright, now you got tension. And we are in good shape. Alright, this is why I marked these inside of here. Sometimes it gets an optical illusion and it just doesn't look like it's lined up once you get all this. But if you check inside of here, my finger is, you may not be able to get down in there to see. Oh, here we go. Okay, and that's why I marked them on the inside, so that I could see. Come on, camera. So I could see that everything was lined up accordingly. And there we have it. Alright folks, so now it's really all downhill from here. We got the timing in, we've got our water pump in. The hardest part of this job is now done. It's time to rebuild. I am going to go ahead and go a few steps forward and remove the power steering pump and pulley and all that. That's going to be brand new. The AC compressor is going to be brand new. The belt tensioner is going to be brand new. Everything's going to be brand new minus alternator, because that's not showing any signs of going out, so no need to do that there. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, folks. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for watching me. Thanks for supporting me. If you have any questions or comments, just, make a comment and get to me. We can trade emails. We can trade phone numbers. If I have the time to get back to you by phone, I don't mind answering your questions, helping you through your do-it-yourself projects if you get stumped up or anything like that. So, all right, everybody. Well, this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, signing off.